subcommittee to get a quote for refurbishing engine 2.
That sounds like a reasonable approach.
And, you know, in March they had a figure of, 65 or something like that. You know, we could hope it would not be, more than 100,000.
But what is refurbishing?
Refurbishing is bringing it up to safety standards. And in this case, since I assume, and I don't know for sure, I don't know anything about this engine too, but I assume that it was built and customized for our use, which means 1,000-gallon tank. Certain things that we need our engines to be able to do because of our terrain, because of no street lights, because of no hydrants, all of those things. I assume that this engine already has those characteristics. And so it's just a matter of repairs and bringing that to a safety standard. So
Maybe possible.
it may be possible. It certainly is more possible than buying a used engine that was, customized for use in New York City and trying to make it work, for our...
Right. But in 2020, that is going to be 20 years old.
Okay.
So there just may be some things that can't.
Then this is the kind of a thing that should be argued, perhaps, in a broader context. Certainly the article is in the wrong place in terms of the order of articles, and it may be prudent, it may be possible to put this off till next year, and it may not.
No, and it may be.
But that's the kind of thing would be a good discussion.
Right. I think being prudent might be actually an important discussion. Certainly it's possible to put it off. We can do whatever we want. But yes, as Barbara said, which side is it going to be? Which side of what's going first, and what are people who have not gone to any of the discussions going to think when they see those two articles?
Something's going to get hammered. Maybe they'll both get hammered.
Well, that's why I was thinking they should go together if they're both going.
Right.
So they just, in the overall scheme of things, this is what we need in the future, this is what we need this year.
I'm curious if we think we could get a quote for refurbishing that truck before February date that we have to have these in by, February 6th.
No, they have to be definite before that.
But just the day before we could have them.
Oh, really?
I thought, maybe I'm wrong.
January 12th, isn't it the budget hearing?
Oh, the budget, I was thinking.
No, but things can change at the budget hearing.
Right.
You can change the budget hearing, and you can change it to deliberative session by amendment.
Right, but we can't change warrant articles. We can't, things can be up or down.
The amount.
But you can't change the intent.
Can't change the intent, but you can change the money.
But you can't.
But you can't zero them out.
And you can't
as
add.
a way of...
Right, and I don't think you can add. There's a last date.
I don't know.
There's a last date for adding, putting in a warrant article.
I know that Carol is meeting with the
January 8th for
fire
protection.
department tomorrow.
It's not quite the same.
Well, let's move on. I think we have beaten that article to death at the moment. Article 7, $15,000 for the library capital reserve. That's a customary appropriation. And one could argue whether it comes from fund balance or taxes, but I think that's a discussion that we can't have until we've gotten to the end of all this and see how much money is being committed in various fashions.
Is that not to pay for the alleged $400,000 roof?
It's some of that is.
Oh, yeah, and that's a number which I think is a bit exaggerated.
I would think so.
Plus, they're grants for an historic.
That's what they're saying they're doing.
There are lots of possibilities, and apparently the roof is not leaking at the moment. So I don't think we should get too excited about the roof failing yesterday. But I think the $15,000 is customary and probably would not raise any eyebrows. Well, we've got to think of politics in this stuff, too.
I think regardless, when that roof gets done, it's going to be very expensive. regardless of what it is, it's going to be very expensive.
Well,
And if you get an L-chip grant, that's fine, but L-chip, and I guess maybe it doesn't matter. The library now, it's a historic place. You probably can't do anything anyway, but,
oh, yes, you can. You can do anything to it you want to.
okay. But the
National
L-chip,
Register puts no restrictions.
all right, but the L-chip does. The
Oh.
L-chip says that if it is a historic place, then you can repair but not change.
Yeah, but in other words, the library has, there are many opportunities for funding the library growth that will not be from taxes or fund balance or anything else. And that's really not for us to say. We haven't talked to the library trustees directly, and I would prefer that we hear their side of the story. But I don't see that reducing, increasing, or anything else at $15,000 is particularly important tonight for our discussion. I would rather move on to some of the other articles. $50,000 to the ambulance capital reserve. What's the status of the,
About 100,000.
they've got how much?
About 100,
How much does an ambulance cost?
200,000 on this list.
yeah. By 2018, he said approximately
How much?
200,000.
It's interesting because I spoke to the EMT who works out of Keene, and he said the ambulance which they had just purchased this past year was $80,000.
That,
That's what he told me.
he must have meant a certain part of it. Not
No, he's an EMT, he works
right,
out of Keene.
right.
Okay, and he told me the cost of the last one, which they had just purchased, this is 6-8 months ago, was $80,000.
Somebody, I think, misheard the question or misheard the,
It's just,
I'm hearing you, I just
what I
can't.
was told.
You
So,
you
and I'm not
practically pay
disputing
that
Jesse, I mean,
for a heavy-duty truck, let alone with everything that's inside an
I
ambulance.
can speak with him, yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, it may be the shell, that may be the shell, but not all the safety, the stuff that's inside it.
I didn't get into that meeting.
Right. That could well have been a shell.
Could have, but I don't
So,
know.
well, we have been quoted from Glenn and so forth, it was about $200,000 incentive. And we have 100,000, and how long is this ambulance?
I was asking, do we really need to replace it in 2018? And he said, well, it's pretty much year by year that they're, extending it. There's no major problems with it the way there are with the engine one. So this, frankly, this seems less critical to me.
Where is the one he had now?
2,000.
2000.
There are new regs in regards to the outfitting, you gotta have
Right.
2 beds now, and things like that.
Right. And the other key thing is that we're going to get a paramedic,
Which changes.
right? Which changes the requirements for the
Jesse's going
equipment.
towards us being able to provide full paramedic services, but we
Right.
can't, at this point, we do it through a third party.
Yeah.
I was speaking with him last night.
I think we should talk with Jesse and say, what's up here?
Yeah.
He's very frugal and very,
And also, there's going to be an increase in charges with respect to ambulance use.
Yeah, that was discussed last evening, and
right, that was.
he put some numbers out.
We've got more money coming in, more revenue.
Yeah, we'll have more, it's
Sorry.
not huge.
No, but,
possibly.
so obviously, Article 8 needs more consideration with respect to that number. Do $50,000 now, $50,000 next year, there'd be $200,000. I suspect that would go a long way to buying a new ambulance in 2018. But if it's 2019, it doesn't have to be $50,000 this year.
Right.
So that should be, I would suspect that's a negotiable number.
It may be a little negotiable, not just for that, but because we dropped it to 25, and we did suddenly need a new one in 2 years, then we could take the 50,000 from the fund balance. And until they're, you know,
Yeah, we
as
have
long as we're within the striking distance of replacement, then I think we're okay. So, I mean, I think we could almost have that. I think we could 25,000 that probably safely, as long as we maintain some fund balance monies.
Do you want to talk with Jesse first, or you want to just go with that number for the moment?
For the moment, let's run with that number.
25?
Yeah, and see how these things add up when we get to the end of the list. Article 9, that one I think can be canceled for the police department capital reserve. Now we hit the $250,000.
Wait a minute, does everyone agree?
No, I mean,
Yeah, they
We're-
have more money than they need, and they have no real demand.
We built the lease into the budget, right?
yeah,
Police is
so that's the
budget.
big thing right there.
Okay, we got the $250,000 for paving, let's leave that one till the end, and we added everything else up.
Not gonna do
And see
anything.
how much room is left over.
It's all right.
$10,000 for striping the roads. Now, there has been some talk that that should be part of the operating budget of the highway department rather than a special warrant article.
I have to agree.
I
I think
think
things
under.
have to be striped. The problem is, the thing is, if you put in a warrant article and it fails, we cannot stripe the roads. But if you put in a warrant article and it passes, they have to stripe the roads. So it's this little balance, but boy, they should be,
Damn if you don't.
right, they should be striping those roads.
Yeah,
It's,
it's on page 11, and it says 0. You know, it's budget for road, DPW road striping.
is 0 because they put it here.
They put it here, I can go
Are
there.
you aware they striped all the roads this past? they
Yes,
just striped
they're
the
supposed to be striking it them every year. The highway department, the New Hampshire, whatever it's called, says you're supposed to be striking them every year.
The state does do it every year?
State doesn't do it every year.
No, I was just asking, I don't know.
I don't know, I look at Route 9, I don't see that being striped every year.
I was thinking every other year, but I think it was the time when Dave, well, I don't know.
Small dots.
Right. Well, they haven't been striped for several years.
Right.
And that was a problem. So I think it's a problem.
It seems odd to me that it's something that seemed like a relatively minor maintenance thing. If it's done on a regular sort of cycle, that would be in a warrant article and not just in the budget. And, like Sam was saying, if it passes, we have to stripe, whether it actually needs to be in the winter. If it doesn't pass and we really need to stripe, it's like,
You can't switch monies into striping
right.
the road.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a different order of magnitude from the paving, so, I mean, we certainly can't put the paving in the budget,
Right.
and the paving is very specific projects.
Yeah.
So it seems to me quite different from
Right.
this.
Well, I mean, in that sense, we could put it in the budget, ask them to switch it to the budget, and then,
Actually, there is a paving line, but
there's a paving line, but it's 0.
no,
Oh,
it's got 5,000 requested for next year.
Well, that
Oh,
project
wait.
was
DPW's
okay.
paving.
no, this is
There's paving, and there's coal patch, I don't know what the difference there is.
well, because paving does the whole thing. Cold patches when they go around and put stuff in the sinkholes as they arrive.
But there is striping as well. Roads,
What
striping.
happens if we suggest that money for road striping be raised by taxation?
Because
Why burden the fund balance with it?
Right, well, that's what we were just
Move
saying.
to-
Move it into,
Either move it into the operating budget
Yeah,
for the
I
highway
think we should do
department.
that.
We got to.
No, it's 0. It's
It's a
0.
line, but there's no money for it.
There's nothing in it.
There's nothing in road
So
striping.
you gotta watch the 3% on this, folks.
case you have to adjust something else.
Or we could say that this article stands with the monies raised by taxation rather than by fund balance. That
Oh,
would
that's another,
Oh.
yeah.
We
well,
have a
that's-
good fight in a deliberative session over that.
Was the 45,000 that was recommended and approved last year, the extra, by this group, to go in David's budget, has that been reallocated? And the reason I'm saying is, could that not, if it hasn't been, could that 10,000 come out of that 45? Is it that 45 still in the budget?
No, it doesn't
That's-
carry over.
It doesn't carry over, but that was used by, it was put in for gravel, but it was, it took some out to buy more salt,
But
and
he
they
spent
took it out
Yeah.
to buy more, some other things that, where the budget wasn't high enough, so I don't know that any of that remains, but that can't be carried over, it gets thrown into the
I
fund
don't know
balance.
about the carryover. What I'm saying is his budget number was increased by $45,000, and he spent it on stuff, whatever he
Oh, I'm
needed.
seeing what you're saying.
Did that come out of the budget to begin consideration for the new budget? If it has not, if it's still in there, okay, then you could take the 10,000 out of that, because, I don't think that 45,000 was meant to go in perpetuity.
Oh, no.
It was just as a one-time.
It was a one-time thing, but it
If
affects,
it's still in his budget, then
it affects the 3%.
So you're suggesting we move it from
I'm just thinking of ways that you could
gravel
do the
to
striping.
striping or
No,
something like that?
no, his point is that David put in X amount of money last year. We put in an amendment to have it X plus 45. So the question is the new budget 3% of X, or is it 3% of X plus 45?
X plus
Well,
45.
we requested, this is gravel, in 2014 it was 46, 2015 it was 70,000. I think that was part of our
Right, that was it,
increase.
right.
And 2016 is 42, so he's back
So
down.
it's back, that's back down, but the bottom, the question is, what is the bottom line?
The bottom line is 14,000 more than 2015.
More than 2015, but is that
Requested.
right? But that 2015 is the X plus 40.
Yes, if the article, the amendment that passed was to amend Article 2 by adding, was it $45,000 to it? That
So-
immediately became part of the operating budget.
He's getting more sand, 37K instead of 30K.
Right.
Wages, I bet wages is up. Wages is up by 20-something, 22.
Oh, of course.
Overtime wages is up by 6K. Health insurance is up by 11K.
But some of that has to do with the way things were moved.
Oh, but
That's
you just
not-
need to find out if they can put the 45 out, that's all you have to do.
He did. I mean, he took it out of the,
You
Yeah,
can't
but
get it out of gravel, but
right, he took it out of the gravel and put it into wages.
I'm trying
No,
to see where you could spend the 10,000. It may already be in his budget. He may have it allocated elsewhere, and the whole thing about wages, that's another whole thing, because the selectmen are recommending that the people that didn't get increases are getting wages, some recommended increase retroactive back to April 1st.
Yeah, but such
And makes everybody equal on an equal
they have
plane.
already done.
They've already got theirs, so
Yeah.
that's nothing to do.
But David's department got this already, so
Yeah.
that puts everybody on an equal plane on a
Yeah,
forward
yeah.
basis. And then if David put money in, again, to increase wages, I don't know if the other departments did the same. So, there could be some money in the wage fund that could be used for the.
Well, it's too bad that Glenn isn't here because he was all over this
Yeah.
wage increase, and
Okay.
unfortunately, I don't remember.
All right, good
No,
people should
he's
get
got,
raises.
he has got I have money in for sweeping and logging inspections for the last 2 years that have never been used.
Well, Article 11, let us return to that.
Yeah, I think that one.
My suggestion either goes into the highway budget or it's raised by taxation. We do not have enough money in the fund balance.
Well, I would say go into operating budget then, because that way
And it's up to the selectmen to enforce that to make sure that it gets done, which apparently with a couple of years, the money was in that budget and it didn't get done.
Would you remember when Glenn said that Dave wanted a trailer to?
Oh, yeah, we're getting to the trailer.
Oh, okay, that's gonna come.
That's we're getting there. Is that sufficient discussion on Article 11?
Yes.
Article 12. That's the fire trucks. I think we pretty much covered that. With money to come from the Fire Capital Reserve Fund of, what did we say?
382
382.
plus 117 from fund balance.
Does that seem reasonable?
Yes, to me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's-
Any discussion, let us proceed.
that hurts. I would have preferred to have that much closer, which is why I believe in capital reserve funds. Wish that that were much closer to that.
Don't we all?
Right, but what I'm saying is we look at that and say, boy, that's a lot from fund balance.
That should be a lesson learned moving forward.
Exactly, that we want the monies much closer, so that 50,000 comes from fund balance, because we haven't made.
Clearly, we need better projections on our
Exactly.
capital
Exactly.
expenditures.
We need a
Exactly.
stronger
Okay.
plan. We need a
Right.
stronger plan.
That's right.
Okay, Article 13 is out. That's Bell Hill, not Well Hill. 13 is out.
That was Joel last night. So that was.
Article 14 is the equipment trailer. Now, it seems to me, why do we have a capital reserve fund? For highway purposes, if we don't use it for things like $15,000 trailer.
Priscilla's cheat sheet that she sent out says that it is coming from
But,
capital reserve
yeah.
fund.
I don't, it's not actually been decided,
Okay.
yeah. And I think it was meaning it could come from there.
Oh, okay, I didn't know where that
Okay,
came
you
from,
are-
so I don't know.
So let us, we want to recommend it comes from capital reserve?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll take that one. Article 15, $5,000 to repair the stone walls at the town cemetery. My question on that is how much money does the cemetery trust funds have? How much income does that produce? Does anybody know?
I think, tell me if this sounds right, that they have $3,000 a year from the trust fund and that the town pays whatever's over those expenses.
Okay,
Does that sound,
sounds
There was something like that.
it's something like that.
It is something like that.
But that's for maintenance, that's from mowing and, yeah, fences and.
It's pretty tough to recommend against cemeteries.
Seeing as we're out, ending up there.
Yeah,
Just for standing for the wind.
Yeah, guess I need to go around and find, see what the stone walls are looking like. I'm sure they need $5,000. I mean, I'm wondering how much they really need.
You can spend a lot of money on stone
Well,
walls
that's
without even trying.
exactly my point is, what are they looking at? Are there parts that have actually fallen down? Are there parts that are in fact, what am I saying, berms? I mean, are they parts that, are actually, like this one where the walls are
Getting something.
actually a retaining wall, not just a stone wall. I'm sorry, I don't know what that.
In other words, you don't think we have enough information.
Well, no, I'm saying that probably 5,000. They may need 5,000 a year to keep it up. I don't know. I don't know enough.
center one. I've never seen them do anything since 1970.
Right.
But then again, when we go up to see the parents' grave, we just pick the rock up and put it back, so, I don't know.
I know. So
But that's kind of just like a rock wall you'd have anywhere, it just happens to be next to the cemetery.
Right, so I'm just curious about that. It's the same with the, Millet Greenstone walls.
Right down here.
I know.
This one apparently is more in danger of collapse.
Well, this is more retaining.
It's a retaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
wall.
see, and that becomes
It's a
$5,000
different feature.
to even
No.
to put retaining walls back. I mean, you can, depending on how much it is that needs to be done, but,
And I think we need some guidance from the select
I think
board.
we need some guidance.
Or a bid, you know, what about our 3 bids
Yeah,
for anything
500
over
bucks.
500?
Well, that's yesterday.
Yeah. So anyway, where does it come from? I would say, in one case, should come from voters, if they are simply the walls that need to be, the stone needs to be picked up and put back on the wall, because 5,000 isn't gonna take you very far, isn't gonna take you very
No.
far if they're rebuilding any stone walls.
And
If it's a retaining wall, that's
And why are
wildly
we having
different.
this in a warrant article? I mean, the cemetery one I understand, because we have to, right? We don't have any budget for cemetery.
Right.
Except,
There's nothing in the,
anyway, maybe we just need good
So
resources.
who would we have, Bruce?
yes.
I'll call Bruce.
But then the one on Millet Green, again,
That's right down here, I don't really call that a stone wall, it's just.
but it's a retaining wall.
It's a retaining wall.
Yeah,
It's just like, oh,
But again, then in that case, we're in the bids. And,
Well, I think both of these we need more information.
I'll call Bruce on the stone wall.
Yeah.
okay, I don't know who on the Millet Green, I don't know.
The select board on that.
Yeah, I think Joel had mentioned something about it, I seemed to know something about it last meeting.
But, yeah.
Okay. Bridge design.
Did
No
they-
idea of the amounts of money
Do
involved?
they have anything about that, Martin?
No, they didn't say anything about that, did
Didn't
he?
didn't you say 30,000 approximately? That was what you mentioned last night.
I didn't get that.
For bridge design. Did you remember me saying that last night? Did I remember that thing?
I didn't write it down.
I don't remember you saying about that.
So what does bridge design buy us?
It buys us two designs,
Two numbers.
two numbers for each of the 3 bridges, I think. One is if we do something, you know, temporary 15-year bridge, you know, using our own funds, and the other is if we do a 70-year bridge, using FEMA money. Not FEMA, or federal
State.
government money.
I think Joel's
State money.
theory is that if we have a bridge design, when they do come back with the bridge money, we'll be at the front of the list because we actually have it designed and ready to go.
Yeah, but we're going to be swimming across the brooks before the state gets around to funding.
I thought that was 2020.
Oh,
I thought that first,
Well, they were hoping it would be 2020, but evidently it hasn't. I mean, there's no guarantee. That's the whole thing. But we want to be the first ones in there because when they do start, it's going to be limited, like only so many a year.
So here we have to say, get us a number. We can't make decisions on X, XXX.
And we have money in the bridge fund,
There is money in the bridge fund.
123,000.
Why isn't it coming from there?
Good point. Use the bridge fund.
I agree. Okay.
but then if we have the same concern as with the fire department, because why are we transferring bridge capital reserve fund if we are taking out that same amount of money to,
Because one we've already got, and the other one we don't.
I hear you, but I mean, it's the same thing
It's
with
the
the
same
fire
deal.
department. It's the same deal with the fire department. So again, it would depend on how you broke those things up and how those articles went in, because it would seem like
Where's the bridge fund?
the bridge fund is Article 2, is Article 3. Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
25.
25,000.
same deal.
It's the same deal. So I think, again, we need to,
This has to be rectified, there's no question about it. Same way with the fire thing. Taking the money out, putting the money in, wait a minute.
So we could say,
And pass through
Put in-
funds.
we could say raise 25K from fund balance for bridge design,
Period.
period.
That would work for me.
and not put in anything in capital reserve for something that we know is going to cost us
Well, that's because
an arm and a leg.
We're leaving it
we're
in
leaving
the
it alone, we're not touching it.
I hear you. I hear you. But we're also leaving it alone, but not putting any more in.
Well, let's see how close we are to our,
What is on this list here, on the bridge items, there's two numbers. Hill Road Bridge, 46,000 / 230,000.
I think there are two bridges. There are actually three bridges.
Well, then there's Comstock Bridge, which I'm assuming is,
Right, but there are
Yeah.
supposedly
So there-
two bridges. There were three bridges total.
right, and each of them has two numbers.
yeah.
Oh, each
This-
one has-
Yeah, so there's
This
Hill
is-
Road, 400.
He's looking at this. So this
I think
is,
one of them was a cheap bridge and the other was a really cheap.
I think one of these is temporary, and one is to actually replace it.
Oh,
Isn't
okay.
that what
That's
it
what
is?
we're talking
something
about,
like that, yeah.
the 70-year versus the temporary.
That sort of
what
thing.
those two prices
15
are.
versus, 70 or
Okay.
most dramatic flood.
But Glenn is the one that really knows the answer to that.
I think we need to rectify Article 2, Article 3, excuse me, and Article
3 and 17,
and
and then,
17.
and 6 and,
12.
6 and 12, right. Yep.
That's good. Okay, Town Hall Capital Reserve, how do we feel about abolishing that? That $67,000 would go into the fund balance, which would be available. And we go through this exercise next year.
You know that Juliana's gonna
I'm
adamantly
so opposed to
that.
it. I'm not opposed if there's some way that it's going to be, if we're going to be meeting at the high school, and those monies can be done to help offset our costs for when I say the high school, but Dates Reed does it. By the school. But our town hall needs huge amounts of work, whether it's that one, or whether it's a new one, or whether it's Violet. I am very opposed to abolishing that, because I think we need to spend it on our town hall.
Do we have to take a position on this one as a committee?
Not really.
That's what I'm thinking, is maybe this is more of a
This is more of a,
personal thing. It's not spending money, so maybe we can just skip it.
Okay, I'll go along with that.
Well, the wording actually is incorrect here. It's for, quote, a new town hall fund. So I would think if you want to allocate the monies to different options, you have to take it out of it. You have to change the terminology. And the selectmen were in agreement that the wording was incorrect, because that was a contention last year at the deliberative session. So you might want to make a recommendation that they
Change the name.
well, you need it, yeah, because
Yeah, because it could only, evidently, originally it's listed as a new town hall,
Okay, so that's
So
the
it
official
cannot-
name.
the official name. So it cannot be used for the current town hall. That was the whole thing last year, was the typo. They didn't have the new town hall in the, that was the whole issue there.
So then there's a whole area of discussion with respect to town hall, changing the name of the.
Sounds
Just changing the name of it,
Not
sounds like you
something
want to use it
that
for
people
something
will
else.
spend hours.
Yeah, I'm gonna start adding
Delivery
this up.
session.
They found,
So
So,
I think
we have 25K.
that's one that doesn't give us any money.
then we're
We have-
skipping, that's
Yeah.
35,
And we have
75.
15, 25, right?
Yep.
25.
Oh, well, we didn't go back and revisit paving.
No, you gotta go back to pay. Oh, there was another 5,000 proposed for tree work at the Alstead Center Commons, which isn't on this priority.
207.
Hopefully we'll
I
go.
come up to 207.
So, are we adding the same things?
25 and 10 is 35, 45, 50, 25, 75.
75 plus 117?
15 comes to 192 plus this 15. Oh, no,
That's coming from the,
okay, well, it's 192 then.
What's the Alstead Center trees?
That's a lot better.
All of maple trees?
There's a big can't see the one. I can't see the one.
Dying.
Not getting those up.
so this is,
192 plus, what did you say, 5 for Alstead Center?
trees.
192 plus 5
that's for the trees?
in Alstead Center.
The Alstead Center Commons.
Is this a,
Maple trees last forever.
No,
100 years.
don't they die in place?
That's what he said.
this
No,
is
no,
the
no,
year,
no, no. We, ours, on our land are,
Talk to Pat.
Saw the-
There's something else in center that you can see here dying.
I know, I tapped them. As a child, I tapped them for a gazillion years. I love those trees. Anyway, never mind, we'll discuss it another time.
We're
They better be replaced, that's all I can say.
what article is that?
Not,
The last
oh,
one.
it'd be 18 maybe?
Well, a couple of these are disappearing.
Right.
Some
But
in there.
with our list that we have right now.
And Priscilla, that's not counting if Dave comes in with the truck line at 190.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to, but,
So I think he's pushing to do that, so if they said it's not until January something.
is that what they said at the,
Didn't you get that trip, Mark?
At one of the meetings, they said that.
And I don't think you can rule it. It's all the uncertainties.
Well, we can deal with the certainties, I'm afraid. And,
yeah, no, I think it's good to know that he's still thinking about it, because
Yes.
that wasn't,
So that leaves us at 278 if we're at
well, let's
197.
not add it in yet, but
No, I'm not adding that in at all.
192
I'm just saying 192.
without
you
the paving.
subtract that from 475.
Okay,
Leaves us
192.
278 to play with. And that's spending everything.
so we have 278, and that's not including the paving.
That is correct.
But everything else is accounted for?
Wait,
278?
no. What are you
They're
talking about?
192.
192.
I know.
Okay.
So if we started with 475 and we take away 192, then we come to 278.
But that spends everything.
I know.
That means
I'm
that
just
next year we
saying.
have nothing.
I'm just saying.
Okay,
That's
but-
what I'm saying.
Right, okay. So we don't really have that to play with because
No, we don't.
we don't
But I
have to
wanted
spend it all.
you to think about that before we talk about payment.
I agree.
So you have 192 coming out, and you've got about 140, 150 going back in. So you're minus $40,000, $50,000, because you're going to have the underspend of this year going back in to replenish. So you're not too
Yeah, we
close.
still have, at 475, we've got 192 from what we have discussed, exclusive of the $250,000 paving. Is that correct? That's for this year.
Well, we don't have anything. So 6, we don't have anything.
Yes, we do. We have the 117. It's a matter of how it goes.
So-
Yeah,
all right,
actually,
so
we
these-
do want to be careful that, these are all coming out of the fund balance, right?
So that means nothing's going in.
That means, right, that's if nothing's going into the fire department. That's correct, Marion.
So then that would be,
So right now they're
it's
asking
a
for,
0.
well, right now they're, yeah. Depending on how we do that, that's at 80,000.
Just like, something's a 0 here. What's the zero? So we have to talk, so are we saying, forget it, fire department, you're getting a big whopping gift right now of the new
Yes.
fire truck, and you're not gonna get squat more than that?
It's a possibility.
Okay. So let's
Okay,
talk
but
about
I
it.
think, but that's good, because you need the zero there, and you need the question mark there in red, and you need
Right.
the question mark, not highway, but what was the other one? The bridge. But, oh, but you already added the bridge in. Did you already add the 30,000 in? Did you add both of them?
No, because we're not,
Okay, all right, so one of those needs the big question
This
mark
one.
too, yeah.
But were we not suggesting the possibility of taking the bridge design out of the existing?
yeah, we're just
We
gonna,
are.
I thought we were gonna ixnay that,
We
or
are.
just do that.
And then are we gonna turn around and put money back in?
No.
Again, it sounds silly.
No, it isn't silly, because we need, bridges are going to be really expensive.
No, I'm silly in terms of doing it that way.
It-
I thought we just
Why
talked
don't we
about,
leave the bridge capital reserve alone and just take the money out? of the
Yes.
budget?
I know, all right, it's 8:20, guys, so what do we feel about the highway paving?
I think it's extravagant, it's too much, and far beyond what we have traditionally spent. And,
So I guess the question for Dave is, what would be the cost of just doing March Hill?
no, Marsh Hill and part of,
No, that's what that costs, that's what,
What did we do last year, when was it?
that's done by
I think.
the cost per foot, or
that
whatever.
was Marsh Hill plus.
Yeah, Valley Road.
It
Walnut
is,
Valley
that's
Road.
what I'm saying, it is, that's what I'm saying. What is the cost of just March Hill? So if he just did March Hill, because March Hill is the part that is destroying
That's the worst.
equipment. Right, and hasn't been done since the 90s, early 90s. You know, it's way, way behind. So what would be the cost of just doing March Hill? And that's probably the vast majority of it, because March Hill is going to require leveling, lifting, because March Hill comes in like this, and that's not legal. All the intersections are supposed to have a car length that is flat. And so,
So if we said 138 for March Hill, just because I
Not
asked one about paving, that would leave us with 170. If we just said, okay, David, you got 138 to go pave. That leaves us with, no, not 170, what am I saying? That leaves 140.
140 unexpended from capital.
Yeah, I'd rather do 150.
That makes sense to me.
So we spent, $363,900 from fund balance last year.
Okay. I don't think we want to spend $475,000 from fund balance this year.
What are the
Crazy.
selectmen, I know at least one selectman thinks that the money ought to go back to the taxpayers. I thought to reduce taxes. Has that been chatted about?
That had been
They did, but
bandied about, I'm
Recently?
adamantly opposed.
But one of them didn't show up at the meeting where it had to be decided.
Oh, okay.
that was decided that it was not happening. It was
Never
not.
mind.
Not happening by their action, but there was an indication that it might be, show up in Article 2, and I think that's a great mistake. Taking $100,000 of
I agree.
fund balance to
I
I'm against that.
Well, I agree, because as we look at this, I mean, that means we're going to be taking stuff out of here. And yes, of course, paving, we don't have to pay for another year, sure, or another 20 years.
Well, my feeling was to get $100,000 of fund balance, reduce the tax rate,
So what did you suggest?
and then turn around and
David?
fund all these.
138, that leaves us.
Taxes.
I know, it doesn't
That's
make
right,
any,
140.
it just doesn't make any
And
sense.
fund balance.
And but, I mean, the things, we don't have to pay anything.
I think we should just scrape it up and make it a dirt road
We
again.
don't have to get a new fire engine. We don't have to, we don't have to do any of this stuff. So it's just,
Trying to live within our means.
I know, but the point is, if you actually want to live in a town that is,
Taxes
Pay
are
and-
paying for civilization, folks. But I am very pleased to see that we have made at least the beginning of some recommendations that will fund things in a reasonable fashion, but at the same time not exhaust the fund balance.
So, did we,
And repasses?
so Sam, did we come up with a number for paving?
No,
We need to find out
we
what,
need a number.
No, I just threw out 138
Okay.
because it left the other 140.
right, and I'm afraid that actually it's going to be closer to 175, you know.
I did email Glenn earlier tonight about the trucks, and he said, he made it sound like from his email that we were only looking to replace the 1994 truck, so that takes out one of the two trucks in
The
2017.
six-wheeler?
So that we had talked about earlier, reducing that 145 right before. So I think if we are taking that out, or reducing it, eliminating one of those trucks, that makes it, we had a question there on our.
Right. Right, and actually I should put that in red because that would increase this
That
number.
would by a lot. That's going to increase it by something, but, yeah, that highway capital reserve, what did we put in last year? Barbara, what did we put in the highway capital reserve last year?
I think we should have action items.
25,000. Yeah, I mean, 25,000 may be too low if we're thinking we're going to have to spend something, but I'm thinking that highway capital reserve should be, 50,000, not 145,000.
I agree.
Right, so that blows up.
Because I think it's been 25,000 for a few years. I think that's been the standard, and that's what we really are looking for, is a about the same
We
amount.
have 166. So if our goal is to pay for the 10-wheeler, we only need like 24,000.
Right, but then there are other things that need to be replaced. So again,
Yeah,
you
we're
might
also
expend it, but then you've got to,
the 120 for the six-wheeler another year later, potentially.
yeah. So the monies are going to be needed, but
So how much do we say for number 4?
personally, I say 50. I mean, Glenn could come up with something wildly different. But if it has been 25, and that's where we've been looking, but we know we need another kick because of expenses, I think that kick is 50,000, not 145,000. That's just, 145 has got to be a typo.
No, it has to be a dream level.
That's,
Why don't we just pretend the one doesn't exist and say 45?
That sounds good to me.
oh.
That's a whiteout.
So,
It's sort of like
Nick, I mean, you've been more of those meetings than I have.
that leaves us with only 95.
I think that if we take too much out of that, we're setting ourselves up for another shock when we have to buy that six-wheeler for $120,000, potentially only another year later. I mean, I don't know how, he didn't say when the six-wheeler was. I mean, this says 2017. He did say in the email that they were only going to replace the 94 International, which is the 10-wheeler.
And that one they're spending much more time on.
Right.
Then, I mean, that's one of those things where, yeah.
So I guess before we made a decision, I think that it's not prudent to say 45 because we're still shy of the 190 for the 10-wheeler. We need, 24,000 just to get the 10-wheeler. And then,
The new one,
yeah, the new one.
if he comes through with that.
Right. I mean, assuming that number is 190 is right, which I think Glenn had spent some time looking into that price. But then, so if we only put 45 in there, that's only a fraction of what we need for the six-wheeler, and if that's only a couple of years down the road.
But we're also trying not to spend everything on the fund balance.
I know, I'm just, we're going to be in that situation again, and, if we don't keep up with these maintenance
we have
things
that,
and replacement
we
things.
always have the option of raising this from new taxation,
That's right.
if we don't wanna spend down the fund balance. You know, we know that, if we add 160,000 in new taxation, that's $200 for, raises the tax bill of someone who has a $200,000 house by $200,
According to what?
according to them. So, if, you know, here we're talking 45 or something like that, it's not 165, and people could vote it down. I mean, it seems to me we can prioritize in that way the things that we think we absolutely are top priority. We take those from the fund balance because we hope people understand we've already got that on track.
Right, and I'm hearing what Nick says, I guess I know that the 10-wheeler was in really bad shape, but I don't know, the 6.
I'm not sure, and it says here 2017, but Glenn said that we weren't looking at that one immediately. He always said that it was the 94 International, so.
Right.
Well, we have to talk with David anyway about March Hill versus Local Valley, right?
Yep.
So maybe we should talk to him about these two trucks.
That being the case,
She's looking at
We
me.
meaning Nick.
that being the case, and we were getting very close to the usual time for ending the meeting, we need to make a decision about December 23rd and Thursday's meetings.
I would say no to the 23rd.
Before we get there, can we do the action items so we make sure?
Okay.
Oh,
So, Nick, will you take the action item to talk with David and or Glenn about the paving and the trucks? And Mary
I'll
Ann's,
call Bruce about the walls, stone walls, tomorrow.
is there anything else? I guess I was gonna ask Carol to talk with the fire department about refurbishing, engine 2.
right.
Any other action items? I'll try and type this up and send it out to everyone, so we're working off the same page.
Okay. I guess I'd like to know that question on that 145, who actually submitted that?
That was Glenn.
Glenn submitted 145,000 to the fund for fund balance
Highway capital reserve.
for highway capital?
Yeah,
reserve?
because it matches exactly, if you add what's in the capital reserve, 166, it gives you what you need for both trucks. So it's an ideal world, right?
Which doesn't exist.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right.
I'm curious, I haven't done the math myself, I'm wondering if somebody else may have. If we did do the paving, the 250,000 and the 145 from the highway, what is that? Do we have any idea what that's actually gonna increase? You know, we're gonna spend more than,
If you do both the 145 and the 250, you've almost depleted what's available.
No, that's not what you said.
Is that what you said?
You're actually asking, what will that raise the taxes?
yeah,
So if you, in other words, you did it from taxes, not from fund balance.
you know,
Not gonna fly.
It would fly.
You could split and take part of it from fund balance and part of it from tax.
Yeah, I
But
guess.
that just makes life more complicated.
yeah.
It makes that delivery session really long.
So how much is going to be left in the fund balance?
I don't think they.
I don't know,
We're still tossing things around.
but
We're not gonna spend it all.
Also, until the auditors, right, until the auditors do their thing in January or February, we don't know anyway.
No, I understand, I'm just saying, with your calculations now, are you at 195?
We're
Where you are?
at 150, 250.
Unless
Well, I
we're,
think
no,
we're-
we're at 192 for sure, and then the 45K might come from the taxation.
Right.
Priscilla, were you also gonna check on the striping?
I think we recommended to move it.
Move it to the line it's in.
Okay, let's get back to meetings. I get a sense that December 23rd is not a popular date for another meeting. How about the 30th? Because we have, what, this January 16 is the official budget hearing?
Who does anything on January 30th?
January 12th is the budget hearing.
Well,
Oh, all right.
You have people who aren't going to be around between the holidays.
Well, why don't we take a poll?
I couldn't say whether I can be at either of those dates yet at this point.
The 23rd, I wouldn't be here. The 30th, December 30th, but that doesn't matter much.
Yeah, I think I can make the 30th, but
30th is fine.
unlikely.
I would suggest that we skip the December 23rd meeting because of the holidays, but plan to have a meeting on December 30th.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Because if we recall, didn't we, some of us missed some meetings last year because the weather started getting crappy?
Yeah.
And then there's that.
And then there's that, yeah.
It's not going to snow until February.
That's-
Yep.
We should have
We
water
had
and
a
salt
lot
pretty much
more
over
than
this
that.
time.
And that's all I think my factor.
All right, I'm leaving.
We'll buy
Motion to